So guys, remember on the 5th of December 2025, right? We all thought that the Madlanga Commission had given us enough for that year, right? So especially they started in September and they ended in December, right? And on the 5th of December, the last person to attend was the on special leave minister, Senzo Mchunu, right? The short guy who is very slow and calculative in what he says. But on that very same day, that was a dark moment as well for the commission's ending of the proceedings for the year, because that's the day Witness D, right, known as Marius Flam van der Merwe, was gunned down in full view of his family. Now, you would remember myself and Yusuf Abranji being the ones to break the story, and I was on the scene as well. But that wasn't it. We started digging and unraveling some information in relation to that murder, and we stumbled across other riveting and interesting information that came to our attention. We were told that there was a hit list, and on that hit list were names, right? Names of the people who would be next in terms of being allegedly murdered as a result of their names being implicated in the testimony of Witness D. Now, what we understand is that from the 12 suspects who were being investigated in relation to the murder of Emmanuel Mbense, who was murdered in 2022 in Brakpan as a result of him being tortured and tubed and his body being dumped in a lake. These, of course, were the suspects who were of interest to the police. From the 12, 4 of them have been killed. You're speaking Marius van der Merwe, you're speaking Yaku Hanekom, who was also gunned down at a filling station. There also was an SAPS person who was gunned down, may not be related to that, but then Viandre Pretorius takes his life. Many were asking themselves as to why would he do so? In fact, this came just a few days before there was an attempted hit on his life. Police are still investigating that. That's another Brown Mohoti incident taking place there. Mohoti claimed that he also was sitting in his car and guys came over, pulled out their firearms and unleashed bullets on his car. But has that been proved or tested? Police are still looking to that. While many have speculated that that could have probably been just a staged hit for attention. This is someone who's actually told the commission that he is not going to appear before the ad hoc committee, rather. He's told the ad hoc committee is not going to appear before them if they don't provide adequate security services, which is something the EFF has said to say he can go fly a kite. They are going to have to make sure they subpoena him to come and answer before the ad hoc committee. But back to where we left it off. 5 of December, from there onwards, it was the Madlanga recess break. And look, I've seen the withdrawal symptoms on social media with everyone having asked before the commission resumed again as to when will we start, who's going to be next. And finally, people have got the opportunity to see senior generals being questioned and taken to task the commission. You speak about Major General Sunana, the KZN Hawkshead, who said that he could not mention a name of an individual who he alleged was very dangerous. Imagine, a major general who's been in the service for over 45 years, telling the commission that he's not going to name a name of this person because he's dangerous. That's just how the infiltration has gone deep into our service, and that's just how much hope people have lost and trust diminishing within the SAPS. But fair and well, he went on to name this person known as Steve Mutsumi, right? And this name has now extensively featured at the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry. Some say he's a businessman, some say he's a taxi boss, some say he's linked to the Big Five cartel, some say he's a very close friend of the now suspended Deputy National Commissioner for Crime Detection, Shadrach Sibia. But as we proceed with the commission, hopefully we'll get to understand who is this individual. He hasn't been called to the commission, but his name just like that of Jathan Mswazi Msibi, who was a taxi boss from Pretoria, who's late now, has also featured at the commission as well. These are names which are believed to be figures who are quite dangerous and control the ins and outs of the streets in Johannesburg and in Pretoria. And that is why the commission is here, right? The commission wants to make sure that it rectifies all of this. That as a South African citizen, you can go and report to a nearest police station whenever you are in trouble or you're confronted with something that threatens your right. But what is also quite interesting is that we've now heard from Witness F. So this chap is believed to be a sergeant who collected money from a member of the Big Five cartel, Katiso KT Molefe. So you see, you conflict the names all the time because these are names which are very repetitive and they come and go while you're at the commission. You listen to these names all the time. But this guy was seen on CCTV footage collecting a bag. And as the crime intelligence boss, Dumisani Kumalo, describes it, this individual could have probably carried something of value. And by so saying, is inferencing the fact that it could have been money, right? But Witness F has come to the commission and has detailed startling, revelations around how Sibia was close to people with dodgy characters and backgrounds. But then what is funny is that he even went to go say that Sibia pressured him and other officers to arrest controversial blogger Musa Kawula. Now, we know Musa Kawula for the things he says which are controversial on social media, writing about people having faced or encountered lawsuits. But was that kind of resource needed to arrest Kawula? I mean, this is someone, if you bumped into a bar having a beer and looked at him, wouldn't be even intimidated about. He's not a guy who looks like he's big, dangerous. This is someone who just has a phone and hides behind a screen. He's a keyboard warrior, just writing about the information he gets. And we understand that Vusi Musi, Kat Matala, the Hawks, and the SAPS were lobbied and gathered to arrest this fellow, right? And this is one guy who was writing information or other things about Vusi Musi Kat Matala and his dodgy dealings. And we know that an SAPS general, a senior one, even tried to stop him from spreading the information about Matala. Now, what's interesting is that this is a post which would later see itself manifest into a broader investigation about Vusi Musi Kat Matala and how some of his wives were driving in blue lights fitted, with cars fitted in blue lights, and these blue lights coming from Ekurhuleni Metro Police Department, and the story goes on, right? But as far as we understand, Kawula had also written something about the ANC Secretary General, Fikile Mbalula, and Fikile Mbalula instructed the Deputy Minister of Police, Castle Matale, according to Witness F's testimony, to execute a warrant of arrest on this individual to investigate him. And that's how this directive cascaded down all the way to the service to Sibia, who then cascaded this down to Witness F, who then had to execute an arrest. A total mockery of our criminal justice system, if one may put it in that way. So that is a key highlight from Witness F. And Sinona, saying that he will not mention this particular individual who's dangerous. And this is a major general, again, who said he did not know what happened to the missing drugs worth hundreds of millions that went missing in Port Shepstone in KZN. That was still subject of an investigation. And the story goes on, right? It goes on to Shadrach Sibia now coming to the commission. And he makes a very interesting revelation, right? Based on hearsay evidence and allegations that the now acting National Deputy Commissioner for Crime Detection, the very same commissioner acting in his position, was gifted with money to undergo a medical procedure where she would have a Brazilian butt lift. So that's a BBL, right? And I think the commissioners and everyone in the commission were really surprised as to the extent, if true, that the service will be sold out to members of a cartel. So it's very easy. A member of a cartel walks into a police station, decides to donate a fridge, and decides that, look, you know what, I'll pay for your medical procedure to get a BBL, and life goes on. That's just how things have turned out at the SAPS as far as we're hearing from the Madlanga Commission. I've tried to cut this short for you so you can understand. I mean, there's been a number of testimonies since we've come back in January this year, but this is where we currently are. Some of the interesting key pointers that have, of course, come forward in Ekurhuleni as well, where we understand that there were just over 100 EMPD officers who were working with criminal records, others not even vetted. EMPD is just a crime scene as it is. I mean, a lot of people who were meant to be suspended were promoted, and those who were meant to be promoted were sidelined. So those are just the issues reflecting on a very small entity such as EMPD. And many are asking as to when will the time come for this kind of inspection to now cast a shadow over the likes of JMPD and, of course, TMPD. For me, the most important highlight right now is a major general who has been in the service for over 40 years telling South Africans that he's scared of revealing a name of a person whom he regards as highly dangerous. You ask yourself, in a world full of criminals and evil, and with us wanting refuge and protection, if we are scared of these underworld figures, and you hear that a major general too is scared, with him being equipped with so much resources to execute arrests and investigate, in what direction are we heading in as a country? It is something which is alarming. As funny as it may sound, or as it may be, very quite interesting, but in the end, it is quite telling. It is scary, and it means that we're on our own. It means that clearly we don't have senior law enforcement officials who are in the right direction to fight for us. That for me stood out for me. So what has happened right now is that you've had all those who've been implicated in phase 1 coming to the commission, right? These are the guys who were going to tell you, I didn't do it. It was a lie. It wasn't me, right? And we've heard that now. For example, with General Sibia, he's alleged to have played a crucial role in disbanding the political killings task team and supporting its disbandment, in having a relationship with members of the underworld, and of course, receiving 20 impalas. Not one, not two, not three, but 20 impalas from an alleged Big Five cartel member, Vusi Musi Kat Matlala. And wait for this. After receiving the impalas, it is said that a few weeks later, they died because they were not being taken care of. These impalas were allegedly delivered on his property. So those are just some of the allegations we heard. Sibia has now come forward and he says that the political killings task team had reached its mandate, it had quelled down the political killings in KZN, and it was ineffective. So basically saying it was a small task team which was getting a chunk of the budget of SAPS. He says that the PKTT had unresolved cases stemming back as far as 2018, and therefore it was ineffective. He's also said that a lieutenant general in SAPS got money from Vusi Musi Kat Matlala for her to undergo a medical procedure and for her to get a BBL, a Brazilian butt lift. He's also said again before the commission that he denies knowing Vusi Musi Kat Matlala. This very same guy who was alleged that he bought him 20 Impalas. Sibia says, this is not my friend. I don't know him. And we don't have that kind of relationship. So it's been quite clear that, so General Mkhwanazi made it quite clear that this was a fight against members of the alleged Big Five cartel who were trying to infiltrate the criminal justice system. What we know is that he had never met Vusi Musikat Matlala because this was not said in his testimony, right? The ad hoc committee or at the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry. But witnesses have come forward claiming that Matlala met Mkhwanazi at a hotel, the Pulse Hotel in eThekwini, KwaZulu-Natal, right? And that they had a meeting there. Major General Sinona is a KZN Hawks boss who basically told the commission that while Matlala and Mkhwanazi were having a meeting, he was just going, going into the kitchen, coming back, sitting on the couch and drinking whiskey. So he says he was drinking whiskey, indulging, enjoying himself. So he wasn't participating and listening to that meeting, which is something the commissioners didn't buy. In fact, they regard it as hogwash. This is like, doesn't make sense. But essentially what we understand is that Matlala wanted to speak to Mkhwanazi regarding this SAPS contract. And that's, of course, according to the allegations that we've made. But we're yet to hear, right, from Mkhwanazi as what he will be saying against this, because this is crucial information that was not mentioned in the commission. But Sinona also read from a text message from Mkhwanazi in which Mkhwanazi said that he will, of course, come back and expose everything. And from this text message, it seems as though it is quite clear from Sinona's side that he was, of course, going to say things against Mkhwanazi when he does appear before the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry. Imagine this to be a boxing match, right? Mike Tyson versus an unknown boxer you've never heard of. And in the first round, second and third round, this underdog is punching above his weight and really putting in some work, putting Mike Tyson, to the task, all right? But come fourth, fifth, sixth round, and towards the end, Mike Tyson starts giving this lad a hiding. It felt as though Sinona was walking through a red carpet rolled by the commissioners. He paraded, and the carpet was later pulled because this guy really was, buckling in under pressure. He was being asked tough questions, probing questions, and at times it felt as though he was contradicting himself. They were poking through his statement. He could not remember dates and versions. For example, what was regarded as sharing sensitive police information to Vusi Musikat Matlala, he would say, no, this was an affidavit part of an online news article. That does not make sense because, news publications do not release sensitive crime intelligence or SAPS info. In fact, they would attribute to the sources that have given them that information. So it felt as though like he was rushing through the statement just so he can get home because really it wasn't looking quite good for him. It was giving a Julius Mkhwanazi moment. Remember when Julius Mkhwanazi came to the commission and he had like just about gazillions of water? He was tanking about 6-7 bottles of water just to survive and keep up. And it really was like, a duplication of what we had seen previously. It wasn't looking good. Look, this is not like a Quentin Tarantino movie, right? It's not like Avengers, good versus bad, right? I think the commissioners want to understand is it all the people are bad inside the service, or everyone has their little skeletons, or they are good people as well. And from what we understand, 6th July was an atomic bomb which was unleashed on South Africans, spilling out details of the alleged rot and criminality within our criminal justice system, against senior generals. Includes your now suspended National Deputy Commissioner of Crime Detection, Sibia, your police ministers on special leave, with pay, by the way. Senzo Mchunu, and other role players, right? But then what we're hearing in phase 2 is, hey, look, the guy who was part of the July 6th presentation, the guy who started this, may also have rot, you know? This is the very same guy who met Vusi Cap Madlanga and didn't tell the commissioners, you know? So it's like a mud fight. Everyone's now trying to drag each other down. And it's important that this commission, while embarking on this fact-finding mission, tells us the truth, you know, gets to the bottom of this, and we understand the manuscript as to whether is it good versus bad, or the entire system is just tainted. I think one thing people are getting wrong on social media is drawing the conclusion for the commission before it even completes its work. It's still too early to say, this guy's a criminal, that guy's a criminal. Yes, phase 1 would have produced witnesses who had evidence which is heavier than those who are in phase 2, and a bit of prima facie evidence that can stick to outweigh the versions and testimonies in phase 2. However, I believe that the commission should be allowed to do its work and get to the bottom of this, because you have people and bots on X who would, you know, what would you call it? I mean, just go after you and try to smear, target, and bully. If you say something like, allow the commission to finish its work, people will say, yeah, but why was Donnie Mchunu get a referral? Why didn't Sibia get a referral? Which is quite interesting and a valid points raised, because there is overwhelming information and a bit of evidence that has been put against these individuals. But people were upset and disappointed with the president saying that the commission must finish its work, because they believe that, is this another minister again enjoying political protection as a result of his patronage and, of course, proximity to the president? But those kind of things cannot be concluded on the premise of assumptions, because what has happened now is that the public has drawn themselves into a realm of speculation, and only the commission, right, can give us those answers. Even though there is questions around why the interim report wasn't made public. That is a big question mark, because those are part of the reasons that have drawn and created room for this kind of speculation and for this kind of questioning behind the clandestine process of how this report was given to the presidency. So other than that, what we can just do is just rely on the commission just to conclude its work and, you know, give us the right answers as South Africans and take us into confidence. And hopefully these recommendations will be implemented. It wouldn't just be another commission and, you know, a box ticking exercise which does not result into tangible solutions. I think this will be the ultimate test as to whether commission can yield results in terms of giving outcomes that will lead into institutional reform and, of course, systematic transformation within our criminal justice system. These recommendations need to be implemented, because already people are exhausted and fatigued from commissions that do not resonate with their issues that they're facing or confronted on a daily, or that do not result in tangible recommendations that will fix whatever issue is being tackled. For example, the SAPS senior brass is facing a litany of allegations that entire brass is seemingly, you know, everyone there seemingly implicated. The Minister of Police is on special leave. The Deputy Minister of Police, Kasim Matale, is alleged to have interfered in ensuring that a controversial blogger is arrested. The National Commissioner of Police, Fani Masemola, is alleged to have received money from Brown Mkhoti, right? Is alleged to have received money again from a service provider, right? The Deputy National Commissioner of Police, General Musikili, is alleged to have been in another scandal where a phone was allegedly stolen, All right. You have Shadrach Sibia, who's alleged to have received money from an alleged Big Five cartel member of Vusi Musicat Matala. All right. Again, the National Commission is accused of nepotism by Sibia. All right. So, what does this tell you? Again, before I forget, Lieutenant General Hitlist Ntumule is alleged to have received money for her Brazilian butt lift from alleged Big Five cartel member of Vusi Musicat Matala. All of this is the top brass. All of these guys, these are your senior generals, right? So this tells you that there is a need for systematic change in SAPS. Generals must be vetted, like the president announced. Hopefully that will be done. And there is a serious need to ensure that the appointment criteria of senior generals is thoroughly checked to ensure you don't have these kind of things happening. You can't be having so much alleged rot at top senior level. It's scary. It's scary for all of us. It's not far-fetched to think that our criminal justice system is a mess. It's in danger, and it's on the brink of collapse as a result of the political meddling and fiddling we've seen and the interference. This is why the theme of this commission is investigating, alleged criminality and corruption, but most importantly, political interference. Because for the National Commissioner to be surprised about the disbandment of the political killings task team is as a result of what he says was encroachment from the political side of the minister, Senzon Kunu, who's now on special leave. And he could not say anything because he regarded this as an inverted commas career limiting. So it means that the interference was glaring and he allowed it to happen because of fear of insubordination, right? And we also now heard about how a deputy minister interfered in ensuring that controversial blogger Musa Kaula is arrested. That again is interference. 2. 3, Sibia was saying that the MK party opened a case against him, and these are the very same people who were sitting on the ad hoc committee questioning him. While the allegations may be tested, but if to an extent it is true, it does again speak to political interference. So to a greater degree, political interfering is part and parcel of the reason of why we're here today. And separation of powers in this instance is needed. The clarity is needed to say, these are the powers of a minister, these are the powers of a SAPS national commissioner, to avoid such political interference spilling over to SAPS operational matters. Where there's politics and it isn't regulated and leading to this, it causes a great disaster and a lot of confusion as well. And, systematic bridging. Like the saying says, whoever pays the piper controls the tunes, right? If you're appointed on the premise of a favor done by a politician and you're a senior general within SAPS, to a greater extent, we know that you need to return the favor. And that will usually lead to, investigations being blocked or something dodgy like that, or irregular tender contract awarding, those kind of things. You think about how Vusi Musicat Matala was allegedly giving money to the former minister Begikele as well. So it means that I give you this work, you give me this, you give me the protection I need, right? I can move around my drugs, I can move around, body bags, I can move around money, and I enjoy the protection, right? If someone from a political organization instructed someone from EMPD to fit in Vusi Musicat Matlala's cars with blue lights, that's how far and deeply rooted the interference is coming from the political end of things as well. So it does again speak to the administrative changes that are needed and that will be necessary to come with the recommendations that will be put forward by the Commission. The South African Police Service is in danger. If nothing is done to clean the rot, South Africans are also in danger. We've seen how cases have allegedly been squashed, blocked, and delayed as a result of those with power and money having the necessary influence to put forward those moves. And the rot is deeply entrenched, with allegations of senior generals who have amassed a lot of money through corruption have portrayed the, arrogance and bravery to not listen to concerned South Africans, but to control those who are abusive and involved in serious criminality, harming millions of citizens in this country. What's needed is a SAPS that will stand up and defend its people, and not criminals. So the smoking gun has been the prima facie evidence we've seen in some testimonies in a form of video or CCTV footage that has come forward showing a person receiving a bag from an alleged Big Five cartel member, and an audio clip in which a senior general can be heard criticizing the political killings task team and the national commissioner. How the audio was recorded is something which may be subject of investigation. I mean, you need permission to record somebody, right? But be as it may, the smoking gun for me here has been the ballistic reports and the CCTV footage, which links someone to a crime or places a suspect to a crime. That you cannot dismiss. That's checkmate. So the commission doesn't really tell us who the witnesses are. We often try to source that information through legal teams, lawyers, or sources. But what I can tell you is that in the next couple of weeks, you need to keep your eyes glued to eNCA, watching the commission, because there are going to be big names coming forward, right? We're expecting the likes of Suleiman Karim, to come forward. He was meant to testify, but he came with a battalion of lawyers and they pushed it to a next date, right? Witness F still needs to come forward. He said he's hospitalized, but he'll soon recover. He's got a lot to answer to, right? And we're expecting the likes of, General Shibiri to come forward. I think Paul O'Sullivan as well. But the big question mark is, will Vusi Musikat Madlanga come forward? And I think the commissioners will do everything in their power to have him come forward to testify, because he's central to some of these testimonies and allegations that have been made before the commission. This is, of course, an inquiry racing against time. The deadline is on the 17th of March. So you can imagine the number of witnesses they still have to, go through, right? It's like they're playing, it's like a card game, and they want to finish everything and make sure that they accomplish the game. But it doesn't look like it will happen. It looks like, just like the ad hoc committee, they may just ask the presidency for an extension. Realistically speaking, May or the month of July is a realistic time frame for them to actually get through most of the witnesses, because they have touched on, for example, Ekurhuleni, but they haven't touched on Johannesburg. They haven't touched on Tshwane and their law enforcement entities, which is like JMPD and TMPD. So we're looking forward to that. One of the reasons why I think the presidency may be called to the commission is to answer about the incident that took place in Richards Bay. So Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi had deployed a team of detectives to resolve a murder case around there regarding the criminal activities in that area. But he later recalled that team because they were not concluding their investigations. The investigations were still active, and he withdrew that team to say they should return back to their station. But he later received a call from the National Commissioner, Fani Masemola, who asked whether a team had been withdrawn, the team of detectives. And Mkhwanazi said yes. And what later happened, Masemola said, no, you need to send back your men there. I received an instruction from the presidency that they need to go back there. And essentially, this may be seen as being akin to interfering and interference as well. Who was that person in the presidency who said that? Perhaps that's a question the president, Cyril Ramaphosa, may have to answer. He will have to give feedback as well on the work of the Interministerial Committee, how they were reporting about the political killings task team, the minutes of their meetings, and was the PKTT, according to the IMC, effective to them. So on that premise, this is perhaps why I think number one may be called to the commission. The first thing I've always wanted to know is whether indeed have cartels really interfered our criminal justice system, and just how widely rooted is the corruption within the senior management. For me, that question hasn't been answered, given the fact that the commission is still ongoing. But I think I'm getting closer to the truth. But also, a case close to my heart, is who really killed Emmanuel Mbenze in 2022? Who was in that house? Who tortured him? Who tubed him? And who dumped his body? Well, we know witness D was, like he in his statement says, was forced to dump the body, but who killed him? And who's behind this hit list that's out to execute all these guys who were mentioned or implicated in the testimony of witness D at the Madlanga Commission? That's something I'm still pursuing, because it's a story where we've gotten close contact to, and ultimately what this tells us is that it'll give us an answer to determine why so much interest in this particular testimony, and within Ekurhuleni as well, within EMPD, especially when it comes to the Emmanuel Mbenze case. At the end of the day, as South Africans, we hope that the commission will give us the answers we need. All we can just do is hope and believe and have faith that the recommendations will take us into a right step in the right direction in terms of cleaning our criminal justice system that will be able to protect the next generation to come. I'm Pule Letshwiti-Jones, and this is SA Explained.